You've been told a lie. The biggest, most beautiful lie ever constructed by human minds, desperate to make sense of the infinite darkness that surrounds us. The Big Bang did not bang. There was no moment of creation, no cosmic fireworks lighting up an empty stage, no divine finger snapping reality into existence. What you think you know about the beginning of everything is a story we tell ourselves because the truth is far more unsettling, far more beautiful, and infinitely more strange than our limited imagination dares to grasp. Picture this. You're standing in a room that has always existed, watching a movie that has no beginning and no end, only an eternal middle that stretches beyond comprehension. That room is our universe, and the movie is time itself, not flowing like a river from past to future, but existing all at once. Every moment that ever was or ever will be spread out like frames on an infinite strip of film. You think you're moving through time, but time isn't moving at all. You think the universe had a birthday, but birthdays are human concepts, and the universe is anything but human. The story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper so quiet it might not exist at all. Imagine absolute nothingness, not darkness, because darkness implies the absence of light, and light hasn't been invented yet. Not silence, because silence suggests the possibility of sound, and sound requires something to travel through. We're talking about a nothingness so complete that even the concept of nothing doesn't apply. No space, no time, no possibility, no impossibility. Just not. But here's where your mind starts to break. That nothingness we just described, it never existed. It's impossible. A logical contradiction wrapped in the disguise of simplicity. Because nothingness, by definition, cannot be something that exists. If it were truly nothing, it couldn't be described, couldn't be imagined, couldn't be anything at all. The very act of conceiving of nothingness gives it a kind of existence, creates a paradox that tears holes in our understanding of reality itself. You might wonder how scientists discovered this cosmic truth, this revelation that everything we thought we knew about beginnings and endings was fundamentally flawed. The answer is both simpler and more complex than you might expect. They looked up at the night sky and saw something that shouldn't be there. Light from stars that died before our solar system was born. Galaxies moving away from us faster than the speed of light. Cosmic background radiation that tells the story not of a beginning, but of a transformation so profound that calling it a beginning is like calling a butterfly the beginning of a caterpillar. The cosmic microwave background radiation, that faint whisper of energy that fills every cubic centimeter of space, isn't the afterglow of creation. It's the shadow of something else entirely, something that came before, something that makes the very concept of before meaningless. When you tune an old television to a channel that doesn't exist, about 1% of the static you see is this radiation, this echo of a cosmic transformation so ancient and so complete that we can barely detect its fingerprints on the fabric of reality itself. Consider this. If the universe truly began with a Big Bang, what was there before the bang? The standard answer is that there was no before, because time itself began with the Big Bang. But this answer is a philosophical sleight of hand, a conceptual magic trick that makes the rabbit disappear by claiming there was never a rabbit to begin with. It's like saying that north of the North Pole doesn't exist. Technically true, but it doesn't address the deeper question of what lies beyond the boundaries of our understanding. The mathematics of cosmology, those elegant equations that describe the expansion of space and the evolution of matter and energy, break down completely when we try to trace them backward to the supposed moment of creation. They produce infinities where there should be finite numbers, singularities where the laws of physics simply stop working, points where temperature and density become literally infinite, mathematical impossibilities that should not exist in any universe governed by rational laws. But what if the breakdown isn't a flaw in our mathematics? What if it's a feature, a signpost pointing toward a truth so alien to human experience that our brains, evolved to navigate the African savanna and distinguish between predator and prey, simply cannot process it without breaking down entirely? What if the universe didn't begin at all, but has always existed in a state so far removed from our everyday experience that we can only describe it through the language of impossibility? Think about time for a moment. Not as humans experience it, flowing from past to future like water down a drain, but as physicists understand it. A dimension, like length or width or height, that can be stretched, compressed, twisted, and folded. Einstein showed us that time is malleable, that it passes differently for objects moving at different speeds or experiencing different gravitational forces. A twin traveling close to the speed of light ages more slowly than their earthbound sibling. Time near a black hole moves so slowly that falling into one would allow you to watch the entire future history of the universe unfold in the space of a heartbeat. If time can be stretched and compressed, if it can flow at different rates in different places, if it can be curved by gravity and twisted by motion, then what makes us think it has to have a beginning? What if time, like space itself, simply is eternal, infinite, without start or end, a vast ocean in which events rise and fall like waves, appearing to move forward but actually existing all at once in dimensions our three-dimensional minds cannot fully comprehend? The greatest minds in physics have grappled with this problem for decades, proposing solutions that sound more like science fiction than science fact. Maybe our universe is just one bubble in an infinite sea of bubbles, each one expanding and contracting in cycles that last trillions of years. Maybe reality consists of countless parallel universes, each one slightly different from our own, branching off from quantum possibilities like the limbs of an infinite tree. Maybe what we call the Big Bang was actually a big bounce, the moment, when a previous universe that had been contracting for eons finally reached its smallest possible size and rebounded, expanding outward again in an endless cycle of cosmic death and rebirth. Or maybe, and this is where the story becomes truly unsettling, maybe the universe is like a sentence that writes itself, a cosmic autocomplete function that brings itself into existence through the very act of existing. Maybe consciousness itself, the strange phenomenon that allows you to read these words and contemplate their meaning, is not a byproduct of the universe, but its cause, the mysterious force that collapses infinite possibilities into finite realities through the simple act of observation. Quantum mechanics tells us that particles exist in all possible states simultaneously until someone or something observes them, at which point they choose a single state and collapse the wave function of possibility into the hard reality of fact. But if observation creates reality, and if consciousness is required for observation, then what observed the universe into existence? What collapsed the cosmic wave function that brought space and time and matter and energy into being? Was it God? Was it us, somehow reaching backward through time to observe our own creation? Or was it something else entirely? Something so alien to human understanding that we don't even have words for it? The answer may lie in the nature of information itself. Every particle, every force, every field in the universe can be described as information, patterns of yes and no, 1 and 0, existence and non-existence. Your body is information, your thoughts are information, The stars and planets and galaxies are all information arranged in incredibly complex patterns that create the illusion of solidity, of permanence, of reality itself. But information, unlike matter and energy, doesn't need to be created or destroyed. It simply is, eternal and infinite, waiting to be organized into the patterns we call reality. Picture the universe as a vast library containing every possible book, every possible story, every possible arrangement of every possible character. Most of these books are nonsense, random strings of letters that spell nothing, mean nothing, create nothing. But some of them, an infinitesimally small fraction, tell coherent stories, describe consistent realities, outline universes that could actually exist. Our universe is one of these books, and we are characters in its story, conscious information patterns that have become aware of our own existence within the text. But here's the twist that makes this metaphor more than just a metaphor. In this cosmic library, every book exists simultaneously. Every possible universe, every possible timeline, every possible version of you reading these words right now, all exist at once in what physicists call the multiverse. The universe that began with a big bang exists alongside universes that began with big bounces, big rips, big freezes, and cosmic events so strange that we haven't invented names for them yet. You are not just reading about the end of the universe. You are reading about the end of every possible universe, including universes where the very concept of ending is meaningless. In some timelines, you never existed. In others, you are immortal. In still others, you are the last conscious being in a dying cosmos, watching the final stars burn out one by one until only darkness remains. All of these realities are equally real, equally valid, equally true. This is why the Big Bang didn't bang, because it wasn't a single event, but an infinite cascade of events, a cosmic symphony played simultaneously in every possible key, a story told in every possible language to every possible audience. The beginning of everything is also the middle of everything and the end of everything, all happening at once in dimensions that transcend our linear understanding of causality and time. And this is where our journey truly begins, not with the creation of everything, but with the recognition that everything has always existed, in forms so beautiful and terrible and strange that the human mind can only glimpse them in moments of perfect darkness, when the distractions of everyday life fall away and we find ourselves face to face with the infinite mystery that surrounds us, supports us, and ultimately consumes us all. The universe will end, but it will also never end. It will die, but it will also never die. These contradictions aren't flaws in our understanding. They are features of a reality so vast and complex that it can only be approached through paradox, through the acceptance that truth at the cosmic scale operates by rules that have nothing to do with common sense or human intuition. You think you know what's coming next in this story. You think you understand where this narrative is heading, what revelations await around the corner. But you're wrong, just as everyone has been wrong about the nature of existence since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what they were looking at. The truth is more beautiful, more terrible, and more strange than anything you can imagine, and it's about to unfold before you like a flower blooming in the heart of a black hole. Impossible and inevitable at the same time. The lie you've been told isn't just about the Big Bang. It's about the very nature of endings and beginnings, about what it means for something to exist or not exist, about whether the universe is a story with a plot or a dream without a dreamer. Everything you think you know about time and space and matter and energy is about to be turned inside out, revealed as a beautiful illusion, hiding an even more beautiful truth. But first, you need to understand that the journey we're about to take together isn't just a story about the universe. It's a story about you, about consciousness, about the strange loop of awareness that allows matter to know itself, energy to contemplate its own nature, and time to observe its own passage. You are not separate from the cosmic drama we're about to explore. You are its most important character, its narrator and audience, its author and reader, its beginning and end all rolled into one impossible, magnificent, temporary pattern of organized information that calls itself by your name. The universe didn't begin with a bang because it never began at all. It has always been here, waiting for someone like you to notice it, to ask the right questions, to peer behind the curtain of ordinary reality and glimpse the extraordinary truth that lies beyond. That truth is about to transform everything you think you know about existence itself, starting with this simple, revolutionary insight. The universe will end not once, but infinite times, in infinite ways, across infinite timelines. And every single one of those endings is happening right now, has already happened, and will never happen at all. Welcome to the real story of everything. Welcome to the truth behind the lie. Welcome to the beginning of the end of the universe, and the end of the beginning of your understanding of what the universe actually is. They tell you the universe is expanding. This is true. They tell you space itself is stretching, carrying galaxies away from each other like raisins in rising bread. This is also true. They tell you that if you could somehow reverse this expansion, trace every galaxy back to its starting point, you would find that everything, every atom, every particle, every spark of energy emerged from a single point smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. This is where the truth begins to fray at the edges, where the beautiful certainty of textbook cosmology starts to reveal the jagged uncertainties that lurk beneath. The early universe wasn't just hot, it was a furnace where time itself was still learning to move, where space was so compressed that the very concept of distance became meaningless, where matter and energy danced together in configurations so alien that they make the interior of a star seem as familiar as your childhood bedroom. Picture a moment when the universe was 1 second old, when its temperature was 10 billion degrees, when every cubic centimeter contained more energy than flows through the entire sun in a year. The universe at this age was smaller than a beach ball, but it contained everything that would ever exist, every galaxy, every star, every planet, every thought you've ever had or ever will have. But here's the contradiction that keeps cosmologists awake at night, staring at equations that dissolve into nonsense when pushed to their logical extremes. If the universe has no edge, no boundary, no place where space simply stops and gives way to something else, then where does it begin? How can something that has no borders also have a center? How can something infinite in scope emerge from something infinitely small? The mathematics that describe our expanding universe work perfectly for every moment except the first moment, the instant of creation itself, where they break down into a chaos of infinities and impossibilities. The cosmic microwave background radiation tells us a story, but it's a story written in a language we're still learning to read. When you look at a map of this radiation, the afterglow of the universe's infancy, you see patches of slightly warmer and slightly cooler regions scattered across the sky like fingerprints on a cosmic crime scene. These tiny temperature differences, variations of less than 1,000th of a degree, are the seeds from which every structure in the universe would eventually grow. Galaxies, stars, planets, and ultimately life itself all trace their origins back to these primordial fluctuations in the fabric of space and time. But the story this radiation tells isn't the story of a beginning. It's the story of a transformation, so complete that it erased almost every trace of what came before. Imagine trying to understand the nature of an explosion by examining the smoke that rises from it hours later. The explosion itself is gone, vanished into the past, leaving only indirect evidence of its power and reach. The cosmic microwave background is our smoke, and we are cosmic detectives trying to reconstruct a crime scene where the crime was the birth of everything. The known laws of physics, those elegant equations that describe how matter and energy behave under every condition we can test, become increasingly uncertain as we trace the universe backward through time. At 1 microsecond after the supposed Big Bang, the laws work perfectly. At 1 nanosecond, they still hold. At 1/trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second, they begin to wobble. And at the moment of creation itself, they simply stop working altogether, pointing toward a realm where quantum mechanics and general relativity fight each other to the death, where the smooth space-time of Einstein's universe collides with the probabilistic chaos of quantum uncertainty. This isn't a flaw in our understanding. It's a feature of reality itself. The universe appears to be constructed in such a way that its own origins remain forever hidden behind a veil of mathematical impossibility. It's as if the cosmos has built-in amnesia about its own birth, a cosmic consciousness that has deliberately forgotten how it came to be. Every time we try to peek behind this veil, the universe itself seems to conspire against us, throwing up new mysteries faster than we can solve the old ones. Consider the flatness problem, a puzzle so profound that it has reshaped our entire understanding of cosmic evolution. The universe today appears to be geometrically flat, meaning that parallel lines remain parallel forever, that the angles of triangles add up to exactly 180 degrees, that space itself follows the familiar rules of Euclidean geometry. This seems natural enough until you realize that for the universe to be flat today, it must have been flat to an impossible degree of precision in its earliest moments. The margin of error is so small that if you stacked sheets of paper to represent the allowed deviation from perfect flatness, the stack would be thinner than a single proton. This level of precision isn't just unlikely, it's so improbable that calling it coincidence would be like finding a pencil balanced on its point in the middle of a hurricane and assuming it got there by accident. Something must have actively flattened the universe, smoothed out its wrinkles, and set its geometry with a precision that defies every law of probability. That something is what cosmologists call inflation, a period of exponential expansion that occurred in the first tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang, when space itself expanded faster than the speed of light, stretching microscopic quantum fluctuations to cosmic proportions. But inflation raises more questions than it answers. What caused it? What stopped it? And most unsettling of all, what if it never really stopped? Current theories suggest that inflation continues to operate in other regions of space, constantly creating new universes, new realities, new versions of everything we think we know. Our universe might be just one bubble in an infinite sea of bubbles, each one expanding and evolving according to its own laws of physics, its own constants of nature, its own timeline of creation and destruction. The horizon problem cuts even deeper into our assumptions about cosmic origins. When we look in one direction across the universe, we see cosmic microwave background radiation with a temperature of 2.7 Kelvin. When we look in the opposite direction, billions of light-years away, we see the same temperature to within a few thousandths of a degree. These regions of space are so far apart that light from one could never have reached the other, even if it had been traveling since the beginning of time. They should have no way of knowing what temperature the other has, no mechanism for coordinating their thermal states. Yet somehow, they are in perfect thermal equilibrium, as if they had once been in contact, as if they remember a time when they were close enough to share information, to exchange energy, to reach the same temperature through normal physical processes. This suggests that the universe was once much smaller than our current theories predict. So small that regions now separated by billions of light years were once neighbors, close enough to whisper to each other across the void. The deeper we dig into the foundations of cosmology, the more we discover that the universe is not just stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. Dark matter, which makes up 85% of all matter in the universe, interacts with ordinary matter only through gravity, making it effectively invisible to every other force in nature. It's matter that doesn't emit light, doesn't absorb light, doesn't reflect light, doesn't interact electromagnetically in any way we can detect. It's there. We know it's there because we can see its gravitational effects on visible matter. But it might as well be made of compressed philosophy, for all the sense it makes. Dark energy is even more mysterious. It appears to be a property of space itself, a built-in tendency for the vacuum to expand, pushing galaxies apart with a force that grows stronger as the universe grows larger. Unlike every other form of energy we know, dark energy doesn't dilute as space expands. Instead, it maintains constant density, meaning that as the universe grows, more dark energy comes into existence to fill the new space. It's as if the universe is writing itself into existence, pulling energy from some inexhaustible source that exists outside the normal rules of conservation. Together, dark matter and dark energy make up 95% of everything that exists. Everything. We can see, touch, measure, and understand every star, every planet, every galaxy, every atom in your body represents less than 5% of reality. We are living in a universe that is almost entirely made of things we don't understand, governed by forces we can't explain, following rules we haven't discovered yet. This is the cosmic setup, the stage upon which the drama of universal endings will play out. We are not just observers of this cosmic theater. We are actors in it, patterns of ordinary matter, temporarily organized into consciousness, fleeting arrangements of atoms that have somehow learned to contemplate their own existence, within a universe that seems designed to remain forever mysterious to itself. The universe expands, but into what? The Big Bang happened, but what was there before it happened? Space and time began together, but what does it mean for time to begin? These questions don't have answers. They have deeper questions, mysteries that reveal new mysteries, cosmic puzzles that solve themselves by becoming more puzzling. The universe is not just expanding physically, it's expanding conceptually, growing stranger and more wonderful with every new discovery, every new theory, every new way of looking at the fundamental structures of reality. And yet, despite all these uncertainties, despite the fact that we understand less than 5% of what exists, we can still trace the future evolution of the universe with remarkable precision. We can calculate when the last star will burn out, when the last black hole will evaporate, when the last proton will decay. We can map the death of everything with the same mathematical tools that fail to explain the birth of anything. This is the greatest paradox of cosmology. We know how the story ends, but we don't know how it began. We can predict the future of the universe for trillions upon trillions of years, but we cannot explain the first trillionth of a second. The universe is simultaneously perfectly predictable and completely mysterious, a cosmic riddle that answers every question except the ones that matter most. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the drama is about to begin. But remember, you are not just watching this cosmic play unfold. You are part of it, a conscious observer whose very existence shapes the reality you're observing. The universe doesn't just contain consciousness, it might actually be consciousness, a vast mind thinking itself into existence, dreaming the dream of space and time and matter and energy that we call reality. The end of the universe isn't just a scientific prediction. It's a personal journey, a story about what happens when the only known minds in the cosmos finally close their eyes and stop dreaming. What happens to a universe when there's no one left to observe it? What happens to time when there's no one left to experience its passage? What happens to reality when there's no one left to call it real? These are the questions that will guide us through the cosmic endgame, the final chapters of the only story that matters. The story of everything. And what comes after everything ends. Imagine reality as a film reel stretched across eternity, where time is not flowing but existing all at once. Every moment that ever was or ever will be already printed on the celluloid of space-time, waiting to be experienced by consciousness as it moves through the frames. This is not poetry. This is physics. This is the block universe theory, and it suggests that your birth, your death, and every heartbeat in between exist simultaneously in four-dimensional space-time, as real and as permanent as the words you're reading right now. The future isn't something that will happen. It's something that has already happened, encoded in the geometry of reality itself, waiting for your consciousness to discover it like an explorer mapping territories that have existed since the dawn of time. But if the future already exists, then what does it mean for the universe to end? How can something that exists eternally in the block of space-time also cease to exist? The answer requires us to think about endings not as terminations, but as boundaries, not as moments when things stop, but as regions where the very concept of existence transforms into something unrecognizable. The end of the universe isn't a point in time. It's a horizon beyond which our normal understanding of cause and effect, matter and energy, space and time, simply stops applying. Stephen Hawking once described the edge of a black hole as a place where time becomes space and space becomes time, where the normal rules of physics undergo a metamorphosis so complete that asking what happens next becomes as meaningless as asking what's north of the North Pole. The end of the universe might be similar, not a wall that reality crashes into, but a transformation so profound that the very categories we use to think about existence cease to have meaning. Time might become space, space might become probability, and probability might become something else entirely, something for which we have no words because our language evolved to describe a universe that obeys rules, not one that transforms those rules into their own opposites. The mathematics of singularities, those points where the equations of physics break down and produce infinite answers to finite questions, reveals the inherent strangeness lurking at the heart of reality. At the center of every black hole lies a singularity where matter is compressed to infinite density, where the curvature of space-time becomes infinite, where temperature and pressure reach values that have no meaning in our normal understanding of physics. These aren't just extreme conditions. They're places where the very concept of conditions dissolves into mathematical chaos. But here's what keeps physicists awake at night. Singularities aren't exotic exceptions to the normal operation of the universe. They're inevitable consequences of the laws we use to describe reality. Every sufficiently massive star will eventually collapse into a singularity. Every black hole contains one at its center. And if the universe itself is finite and closed, then it too might eventually collapse into a final singularity, a cosmic implosion that would compress all of space, time, matter, and energy back into a point of infinite density and zero volume, the ultimate recycling of reality itself. Yet singularities represent the breakdown of our understanding, not necessarily the breakdown of reality. They're places where our equations throw up their hands and admit defeat, where the smooth predictability of classical physics gives way to the wild uncertainties of quantum mechanics. At the quantum scale, particles don't have definite positions or velocities. They exist in clouds of probability, in states of superposition where every possible outcome occurs simultaneously until the moment of observation collapses the wave. Function and forces reality to choose a single path forward. This quantum indeterminacy isn't just a quirk of microscopic particles. It's a fundamental feature of reality at every scale. The vacuum of space itself seethes with virtual particles, pairs of matter and antimatter that spontaneously appear and disappear in timescales so brief that they exist only as borrowed energy from the universe's quantum credit account. These virtual particles aren't just theoretical constructs. They have measurable effects, creating forces that can be detected in laboratory experiments, proving that even empty space is actually a boiling foam of potential existence. The multiverse. Theory extends this quantum weirdness to cosmic proportions, suggesting that every quantum event that could go one way or another actually goes both ways simultaneously, spawning parallel universes for each possible outcome. In this interpretation, the universe isn't singular but plural, an infinite collection of parallel realities, each one slightly different from all the others, branching off from quantum decision points, like the limbs of an endlessly growing tree. Every choice you make, every quantum measurement that occurs anywhere in the cosmos, creates new branches of reality where alternative versions of events play out according to different quantum possibilities. If the many worlds interpretation is correct, then there are versions of you reading these words in universes where the laws of physics are slightly different, where the expansion of space proceeds at different rates, where stars burn out faster or slower, where the ultimate fate of reality follows completely different trajectories. There are universes where the Big Bang never happened, universes where time runs backward, universes where consciousness never evolved, and universes where consciousness is the fundamental force that shapes reality, rather than an accidental byproduct of complexity. But the multiverse theory raises a disturbing question. If every possible universe exists somewhere in the vast branching structure of reality, then what makes our universe special? Why do we find ourselves in this particular branch, rather than any of the infinite alternatives? The anthropic principle suggests that we observe this universe precisely because it's the kind of universe where observers like us can exist. In branches where the laws of physics don't permit life, there's no one around to notice that fact. We're here because here is where here can be observed. This reasoning leads to unsettling conclusions about the nature of probability and existence. If the multiverse is infinite, then every possible event happens infinitely often across different branches of reality. There are infinite versions of you leading lives identical to yours up to this moment. Infinite versions where you made different choices. Infinite versions where you were never born at all. In an infinite multiverse, nothing is unique. Nothing is special. Nothing happens only once. Every tragedy repeats endlessly. Every triumph occurs countless times. Every moment of consciousness flickers into existence across an infinity of parallel realities. The concept of eternal inflation pushes these ideas even further, suggesting that the Big Bang wasn't a single event, but an ongoing process that continues to create new universes throughout space and time. In this model, our observable universe is just one bubble in an infinite foam of expanding space-time, each bubble governed by its own laws of physics, its own values for fundamental constants, its own timeline of creation and destruction. The process that created our universe is still happening elsewhere, has always been happening, will always be happening, making the Big Bang not the beginning of everything, but just one note in an infinite cosmic symphony that has no beginning and no end. String theory, perhaps the most ambitious attempt to unify all the forces of nature into a single mathematical framework, suggests that reality consists of vibrating strings of energy existing in 11 dimensions, most of which are curled up so tightly that we can't perceive them directly. In this view, every particle in the universe is actually a string vibrating, at a specific frequency, like notes played on a cosmic piano. Matter, energy, space, and time are all different harmonics of the same fundamental vibration, different ways that strings can oscillate through the hidden dimensions of reality. But string theory comes with its own bizarre implications. If reality has 11 dimensions, then every three-dimensional object we see is actually a shadow cast by higher dimensional structures we can't directly observe. Your body exists in 11 dimensions, but your senses can only perceive 3 of them plus time. The real you, the complete you, extends through dimensions that remain forever hidden from direct experience. Like a hyperdimensional being trying to understand itself through the limited perspective of a flatlander. The extra dimensions of string theory might provide escape routes from the apparent finality of cosmic endings. If our three-dimensional universe faces heat death or collapse, perhaps consciousness could migrate into higher dimensions, finding new forms of existence in spaces we can't currently imagine. Death might not be termination, but transformation. A phase transition from three-dimensional existence to something more complex, more complete, more real than our current shadow existence allows us to comprehend. Loop quantum gravity offers a different perspective on the fundamental structure of space-time, suggesting that space and time themselves are quantized, composed of discrete, indivisible units rather than smooth, continuous manifolds. In this view, space-time has a granular structure at the smallest scales, like a cosmic pixelation that becomes apparent only when you zoom in far enough. The smooth space-time of general relativity emerges from this quantum foam the same way that the smooth surface of water emerges from the chaotic dance of individual molecules. If space-time is quantized, then the singularities that plague classical physics might not exist at all. Instead of infinite density and zero volume, collapsing, matter might reach a minimum size and maximum density before bouncing back in a cosmic rebound that creates new space and time. The Big Bang might have been a big bounce, the moment when a previous universe reached maximum compression and rebounded into expansion, suggesting that cosmic history consists of endless cycles of expansion and contraction, creation and destruction, death and rebirth. This cyclical model of cosmology has ancient roots in Hindu and Buddhist philosophy, but modern physics provides new mathematical foundations for old intuitions about the eternal nature of existence. If the universe bounces rather than ending in singularities, then cosmic death becomes cosmic rebirth. The end of one reality becomes the beginning of another, and the ultimate fate of the universe transforms from final termination to endless renewal. But even eternal cycling raises profound questions about identity and continuity. If the universe bounces back from collapse, is the new universe that emerges the same universe or a different one? Do the patterns of matter and energy that constitute consciousness survive the bounce? Or does each cycle begin with a completely fresh start? Would you be you in the next universe, or would you be someone else entirely? A different arrangement of the same fundamental elements following similar but not identical patterns of development. The grandfather paradox of time travel reveals the deep logical contradictions that lurk within our understanding of causality and temporal sequence. If you traveled back in time and prevented your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, then you would never be born, which means you could never travel back in time to prevent their meeting, which means they would meet after all, which means you would be born, which means you could travel back in time. An endless loop of logical contradiction that seems to tear holes in the fabric of cause and effect itself. But the grandfather paradox is just one example of the temporal impossibilities that emerge when we take the mathematics of spacetime to their logical extremes. Einstein's equations permit closed time-like curves, paths through spacetime that loop back on themselves, allowing travelers to arrive at their own past, to become their own ancestors, to create causal loops where effects precede their causes and outcomes determine their origins. These aren't just science fiction fantasies, they're mathematically valid solutions to the field equations of general relativity, suggesting that the universe itself might contain pathways through time that violate our common-sense understanding of before and after. The implications extend far beyond time travel stories. If closed time-like curves exist, then the very concept of cosmic history becomes problematic. Did the Big Bang cause the present state of the universe? Or did the present state somehow cause the Big Bang? Could the universe be participating in its own creation, reaching backward through time to establish the initial conditions that would eventually give rise to the very circumstances that reach backward through time? The universe might be like a bootstrap paradox writ large, a self-causing system where every effect is also a cause, where the beginning depends on the end, and the end determines the beginning. Quantum mechanics adds another layer of temporal strangeness through the phenomenon of retrocausality, the possibility that quantum measurements in the present can influence the past states of particles. In certain quantum experiments, the choice of measurement made in the present appears to determine which path a photon took through a double-slit apparatus in the past, as if the particle somehow knew what measurement would be made and adjusted its historical behavior accordingly. This isn't just correlation. It's a violation of our basic assumptions about the flow of time and the direction of causation. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment pushes this temporal weirdness to its limits. Photons are sent through a double-slit apparatus, creating an interference pattern that suggests they traveled through both slits simultaneously. But then, using quantum entanglement, experimenters can choose whether or not to measure which slit each photon passed through, and this choice can be made after the photons have already hit the detector screen. Impossibly, the choice made in the future appears to retroactively determine whether the photons behaved as waves or particles in the past. These experiments suggest that the past might not be fixed, that history itself might be subject to quantum uncertainty, that the universe might be constantly rewriting its own timeline based on measurements and observations that occur later in time. If this is true, then the end of the universe might somehow influence its beginning. The final state of reality might help determine the initial conditions from which everything emerged, and the cosmic story might be told both forward and backward, simultaneously, with past and future locked in a dance of mutual causation that transcends our linear understanding of temporal sequence. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics reveals another fundamental paradox at the heart of reality. Quantum systems exist in superposition states where all possible outcomes occur simultaneously until a measurement forces the system to choose a single outcome and collapse the wave function. But what constitutes a measurement? When does the transition from quantum possibility to classical actuality occur? The mathematics of quantum mechanics describes the evolution of superposition states with perfect precision, but it provides no clear mechanism for explaining why or when superposition ends and definite outcomes emerge. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness itself plays a fundamental role in collapsing wave functions, that observation by conscious beings is what transforms quantum possibilities into classical realities. If this is true, then consciousness isn't just an accidental byproduct of complex matter. It's a fundamental force in the universe, the mechanism by which potential becomes actual, the process by which reality chooses itself from among infinite possibilities. But this raises disturbing questions about what happens when consciousness disappears. If conscious observation is necessary to collapse wave functions and create definite outcomes, then what happens to the universe when the last conscious observer dies? Does reality revert to pure superposition, existing in all possible states simultaneously, with no mechanism to choose between them? Does the universe become a ghost of itself, a shadow realm of pure potential with no actual events, no definite outcomes, no concrete existence? The fine-tuning problem reveals another layer of cosmic mystery. The fundamental constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the speed of light, the mass of the electron, the rate of cosmic expansion, appear to be precisely calibrated to allow for the existence of stars, planets, and life. If any of these constants were even slightly different, the universe would be a sterile wasteland where atoms couldn't form, stars couldn't shine, or galaxies couldn't coalesce. The margin of error is so small that it suggests either incredible luck or deliberate design. But fine-tuning raises paradoxes about causation and purpose. If the constants were set by some kind of cosmic designer, who designed the designer? If they resulted from random chance, how do we explain the extraordinary improbability of getting values that permit complexity and life? If they're the result of natural selection among multiple universes, with only life-permitting universes surviving to be observed, then what mechanism creates and destroys universes based on their life-supporting properties? The anthropic principle attempts to resolve these questions by noting that we can only observe universes where observers like us can exist, making our observations of fine-tuning inevitable rather than mysterious. But this reasoning leads to uncomfortable conclusions about the nature of existence and observation. If we exist only because we exist in a universe where existence is possible, then our presence doesn't require explanation. It's simply a tautological necessity of being conscious beings in a universe that permits consciousness. Yet, the anthropic principle raises new questions about the nature of possibility and necessity. If our universe is fine-tuned for life, are there other universes fine-tuned for different kinds of existence? Could there be realities where the dominant form of complexity isn't biological life, but something else entirely? Electronic consciousness, crystalline intelligence, or forms of awareness so alien to our experience that we lack concepts and words to describe them? The multiverse might contain not just variations on familiar themes, but entirely different categories of existence, alternative forms of reality that operate according to principles we've never imagined. The information paradox of black holes reveals fundamental contradictions between quantum mechanics and general relativity. According to general relativity, information that falls into a black hole is lost forever, crushed out of existence at the singularity. But quantum mechanics insists that information cannot be destroyed. It can be scrambled, encoded, or transformed, but it must always be conserved. When black holes evaporate through Hawking radiation, what happens to the information they contain? Is it released in the radiation, encoded in forms too complex for us to decode? Or is it truly destroyed, violating one of the fundamental principles of physics? Recent research suggests that the interior of black holes might not exist at all, that what we interpret as a three-dimensional region of curved spacetime might actually be information encoded on the two-dimensional surface of the event horizon. This holographic principle implies that all the information we think exists in three-dimensional space is actually stored on two-dimensional boundaries, like shadows cast by higher dimensional realities we can't directly perceive. If the holographic principle is correct, then the entire universe might be a projection from information encoded on some cosmic boundary, possibly the edge of the observable universe itself. Everything you see, touch, and experience might be a holographic illusion, a three-dimensional shadow cast by two-dimensional information processing on the surface of space-time. Your thoughts, emotions, memories, and consciousness might all be holographic projections from data encoded at the edge of reality, making you not a three-dimensional being, but a two-dimensional information pattern experiencing the illusion of depth and solidity. The holographic principle suggests that the question of what happens when the universe ends might be fundamentally misguided. If reality is information encoded on boundaries rather than matter distributed through space, then cosmic endings might be transformations of encoding rather than destruction of substance. The universe might not die. It might simply change the way it stores and processes information, transitioning from one form of holographic projection to another, from one pattern of boundary encoding to a different pattern that creates different kinds of experience, different forms of reality, different ways of being conscious. The problem of quantum gravity reveals the deep incompatibility between our two most successful theories of physics. Quantum mechanics describes the behavior of matter and energy at the smallest scales with incredible precision, predicting the outcomes of experiments to more decimal places than any other scientific theory in history. General relativity describes the behavior of space-time and gravity at the largest scales with equal precision, accurately predicting everything from the orbit of Mercury to the existence of black holes and gravitational waves. But these two theories are fundamentally incompatible. Quantum mechanics treats space-time as a fixed background against which quantum events occur, while general relativity treats space-time as a dynamic entity that curves and flexes in response to matter and energy. When physicists try to combine these theories to create a quantum theory of gravity, the mathematics breaks down into infinities and nonsensical results. Every attempt to merge quantum mechanics and general relativity reveals new paradoxes, new impossibilities, new ways that our understanding of reality contradicts itself. This incompatibility isn't just a technical problem, it's a sign that our entire conceptual framework for understanding reality might be fundamentally flawed. We might be like ancient astronomers trying to understand planetary motion using the assumption that Earth is the center of the universe. Not wrong about the details, but wrong about the basic structure of what we're trying to explain. The search for quantum gravity might require us to abandon some of our most basic assumptions about the nature of space, time, matter, energy, and causation itself. String theory and loop quantum gravity represent two different approaches to resolving these paradoxes, but both require us to accept ideas that seem to violate common sense. String theory suggests that particles are actually extended objects, vibrating in 11 dimensions, most of which we can't observe. Loop quantum gravity suggests that space-time itself has a discrete, granular structure at the smallest scales. Both theories make predictions that we can't currently test, leaving us with mathematical possibilities rather than empirical certainties. The measurement problem, the fine-tuning problem, the information paradox, and the problem of quantum gravity all point toward the same unsettling conclusion. Reality, at its deepest level, operates according to principles that our minds, evolved to survive on the African savanna, simply cannot grasp intuitively. We can describe these principles mathematically, but we cannot visualize them, cannot analogize them to everyday experience, cannot truly comprehend what they mean for the nature of existence itself. This suggests that the ultimate fate of the universe might be not just unknown but unknowable. Not because we lack sufficient data or computational power, but because the concepts required to understand cosmic endings operate at levels of abstraction that transcend the capabilities of biological intelligence. The universe might end in ways so strange, so alien to human experience, that even our most sophisticated theories can only gesture toward the mystery rather than solving it. Yet this unknowability might itself be a clue to the deepest nature of reality. If the universe consistently reveals new layers of strangeness every time we think we've reached the bottom level of explanation, perhaps strangeness itself is the fundamental feature of existence. Perhaps reality is strange all the way down. Mystery upon mystery. Paradox nested within paradox, with no final level where everything makes sense according to human logic and intuition. The heart of the mystery might be that mystery itself is the heart of everything. That the universe is not a puzzle to be solved, but a riddle to be lived. Not a question with an answer, but a question that asks itself. Not a story with an ending, but a story that writes itself into existence through the very act of being told. The end of the universe might not be an event that happens, but a recognition that ending and beginning, creation and destruction, existence and non-existence are all human concepts that apply to human-scale experience, but break down completely when applied to the cosmos as a whole. The mystery deepens rather than resolving as our knowledge grows, suggesting that mystery itself might be the most fundamental feature of reality. Not a gap in our understanding to be filled by future discoveries, but the essential nature of existence itself, the reason why something exists rather than nothing, the answer to the question of why there is anything at all to question. Stop for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. Feel the blood moving through your veins, the electrical impulses firing across your neural networks, the chemical reactions that keep your consciousness flickering like a candle flame in an infinite darkness. Now consider this. If time is an illusion, if all moments exist simultaneously in the block universe, then everything you've ever done, every word you've ever spoken, every thought you've ever had, has already happened infinite times before. You have read these exact words infinite times across infinite parallel timelines, felt this exact confusion infinite times, experienced this exact moment of recognition infinite times, and you will continue to experience it infinite times in futures that have already been written in the mathematics of space-time itself. Your first kiss, your deepest heartbreak, your moment of greatest triumph, your hour of darkest despair. All of these exist simultaneously in the eternal now of four-dimensional reality, as real and as permanent as monuments carved in stone. You are not moving through time. Time is not flowing around you. You are a static pattern in space-time, a frozen sculpture of consciousness that only appears to move because your awareness is limited to experiencing one slice of eternity at a time. The you that was born is happening right now. The you that will die is happening right now. The you reading these words is just one frame in an infinite movie reel where every scene plays simultaneously in the theater of existence. But it gets worse. If the many worlds interpretation is correct, then there are infinite versions of you experiencing infinite variations of this moment across infinite parallel realities. In some of them, you stopped reading these words and walked away. In others, you never learned to read at all. In still others, you are not human, but something else entirely. A different kind of consciousness that evolved from different kinds of matter under different physical laws in universes where the fundamental constants of nature took different values. Every possible version of you that could exist does exist, scattered across the infinite branching structure of the multiverse like leaves on a tree that grows forever in all directions simultaneously. This means that somewhere in the vast expanse of parallel realities, there is a version of you that lives forever, that never ages, never dies, never experiences suffering or loss. But there are also infinite versions of you that die in childhood, infinite versions that never achieve consciousness at all, infinite versions that exist in states of perpetual agony or eternal bliss. Every joy you have ever felt is balanced by infinite sorrows experienced by other versions of yourself. Every moment of peace is countered by infinite moments of terror playing out in parallel timelines where your life took different turns, where the universe developed according to different quantum possibilities. What if consciousness itself is not what you think it is? What if you are not a singular being experiencing a unique timeline, but a distributed entity scattered across multiple realities? A quantum consciousness that exists in superposition until the moment of observation collapses your identity into a single temporary configuration. The person you think you are might be just one temporary arrangement of a more complex identity that spans dimensions you cannot perceive, extends through timelines you cannot access, exists in forms you cannot imagine. Consider the possibility that the universe is alive, that consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of complex matter, but the fundamental force that organizes reality itself. In this view, you are not observing the universe. You are the universe observing itself through temporarily organized patterns of matter and energy. Your thoughts might be the universe's thoughts. Your experiences might be how reality experiences itself. Your consciousness might be a local manifestation of a cosmic mind that spans all of space and time. But if the universe is conscious, if reality itself is a vast mind thinking itself into existence, then what happens when that mind changes? Its thoughts? What happens when the cosmic consciousness decides to think about something else, to dream different dreams, to imagine alternative realities? You might not just die when your body fails. You might cease to exist when the universe stops thinking about you. When the cosmic mind moves on to other thoughts, other dreams, other patterns of organized information, the scale of the cosmos reduces human experience to a level of insignificance that the mind can barely comprehend. If you could shrink the entire observable universe to the size of Earth, then Earth would be smaller than a single atom. Your entire life, with all its joys and sorrows, hopes and fears, achievements and failures, would occupy a space smaller than a subatomic particle in this scaled-down cosmos. Every human who has ever lived, every civilization that has ever risen and fallen, every idea that has ever been conceived, every work of art that has ever been created, would fit together in a region smaller than the nucleus of an atom. And the observable universe is just the tiny fraction of reality we can see, limited by the speed of light and the age of the cosmos. Beyond the cosmic horizon lie regions of space so distant that their light has not had time to reach us since the Big Bang. These regions might contain infinite galaxies, infinite civilizations, infinite versions of human history playing out, according to slightly different initial conditions. The totality of everything we can observe, measure, or theoretically detect represents an infinitesimally small fraction of what actually exists, but even this vast cosmic perspective might be nothing compared to the true scale of reality. If the multiverse is infinite, if there are unlimited parallel universes with different laws of physics, different dimensions, different ways of organizing matter and energy and consciousness, then our entire cosmos, with all its billions of galaxies and trillions of stars, is just one bubble in an infinite foam of realities, each one containing its own version of infinity, its own forms of existence so alien to our experience that we lack concepts to describe them. You might think that this cosmic perspective renders human existence meaningless, that the vast scale of reality reduces our lives to insignificant accidents in an indifferent universe. But consider the alternative. What if consciousness is so rare, so unlikely, so precious, that your existence represents a cosmic miracle of unimaginable improbability? What if the universe spent 13.8 billion years evolving the precise conditions necessary for matter to organize itself into patterns complex enough to experience subjective awareness, to contemplate its own existence, to ask questions about the nature of reality itself? The universe might have evolved for billions of years just to produce this moment, this exact instant when consciousness encounters the mystery of its own existence and feels the vertigo of infinite possibility. You might be the universe's way of knowing itself, of experiencing wonder and terror and awe, of contemplating the meaning of existence from the inside. Your consciousness might be the most unlikely, most precious, most significant phenomenon in all of reality, the mechanism by which the cosmos achieves self-awareness. But this significance comes with a terrible weight. If consciousness is the universe's way of experiencing itself, then your death is not just the end of your individual existence, it's the silencing of one voice in the cosmic chorus, the closing of one eye through which reality observes itself, the termination of one unique perspective that has never existed before and will never exist again. When the last conscious being in the universe dies, when the final star burns out, and the last black hole evaporates and temperature equalizes across all of space, the universe might not just become empty, it might become unconscious, a vast realm of matter and energy with no awareness, no experience, no inner life. The heat death of the universe takes on new horror when viewed from this perspective. It's not just the end of structure, organization, and complexity, it's the end of experience itself, the final closing of the cosmic mind, the moment when reality stops knowing that it exists. The universe might continue to exist after heat, death, but it would be existence without awareness, being without consciousness, reality without anyone to call it real. This raises the most terrifying question of all. What if the universe has already died, and we are just the final echoes of its last thoughts, the dying neurons in a cosmic brain that is already brain-dead? What if consciousness is so fragile, so temporary, so unlikely, that it can only exist for a brief moment in cosmic history, a flickering candle that burns brightly for an instant before being extinguished by the cold winds of entropy and time? The mathematics that describe the expansion of space suggest that the galaxies are moving away from each other at an accelerating rate, driven by dark energy that grows stronger as the universe grows larger. Eventually, this expansion will stretch space so much that galaxies will disappear beyond each other's cosmic horizons. Stars will be unable to form because matter will be too diffuse, and isolated stellar remnants will drift alone through an increasingly empty cosmos. The universe will become a vast ocean of darkness punctuated only by the occasional flash of a dying white dwarf or the brief fireworks of proton decay. But perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that consciousness itself might be fighting against this cosmic fate, that awareness might be evolution's attempt to create something that can survive the death of the universe. Maybe consciousness isn't just a way for the universe to know itself. Maybe it's the universe's attempt to transcend itself, to find escape routes from the thermodynamic laws that doom all physical systems to eventual decay and equilibrium. This would mean that every thought you think, every choice you make, every moment of awareness you experience is part of the universe's desperate attempt to outlive its own physical limitations. Your consciousness might be participating in a cosmic project whose ultimate goal is to discover ways to survive the heat death of reality itself, to find forms of existence that can persist beyond the end of stars, beyond the evaporation of black holes, beyond the final equilibrium of temperature and energy that signals the end of all possible change. But what if consciousness fails in this project? What if awareness, despite all its creativity and complexity and beauty, proves to be just another temporary pattern in the cosmic dance of matter and energy, destined to flicker out like all other forms of organization when entropy finally claims its ultimate victory? What if the universe's attempt to know itself through consciousness is doomed from the start? A beautiful but futile gesture in the face of inevitable cosmic death. The weight of these possibilities presses down on human existence like the gravity of a black hole, warping the space around normal concerns and everyday experiences. How do you live a meaningful life when that life exists in a cosmos that might be unconscious, in a reality that might be dreaming itself, in a timeline that might already be finished, in a universe that might be dying even as it appears to be, expanding and growing and creating new possibilities for existence? Yet perhaps the weight itself is the answer. Perhaps the cosmic horror of infinite scale and ultimate meaninglessness gives birth to its own form of meaning. Not meaning handed down by cosmic purpose or divine intention, but meaning created by conscious beings who choose to find significance in their own existence despite the vast indifference of the universe that contains them. Perhaps consciousness is the universe's rebellion against its own meaninglessness, a local violation of cosmic indifference, a temporary victory of awareness over entropy that makes the final defeat more poignant, more precious, more beautiful. Because it is so unlikely and so doomed. You are here now, conscious and aware, capable of contemplating the deepest mysteries of existence. This might be the most improbable thing that has ever happened in the history of the cosmos. This might be the universe's greatest achievement, its most unlikely creation, its most precious and fragile gift to itself. The fact that you can feel cosmic horror at the scale of reality might itself be the most remarkable feature of reality. That matter can organize itself into patterns complex enough to feel terror at their own insignificance, to experience awe at their own improbability, to find beauty in their own temporariness. The universe will end, but it will end having produced consciousness, having created beings capable of understanding their own cosmic context, having evolved minds that can contemplate infinity and feel vertigo at the abyss of possibility. This might be enough. This might be everything. This might be why there is something rather than nothing, so that something, somewhere, sometime, could look up at the stars and feel the weight of existence pressing down like the hand of eternity itself. Picture the universe as a vast neural network, 13 billion years in the making, with galaxies as neurons and dark matter filaments as synapses stretching across cosmic voids. Watch as this cosmic brain fires its thoughts across billions of light years. Each stellar birth a synaptic flash, each galactic collision a moment of neural integration, each black hole a memory being permanently encoded into the fabric of space-time itself. Now imagine that this cosmic mind has just awakened, and the moment of its awakening is right now, in this instant, as consciousness emerges from the complexity of matter arranged across unimaginable scales. But here's the twist that changes everything. What if the universe isn't becoming conscious? What if it's dying? What if consciousness as we know it, this brief flicker of awareness that allows matter to contemplate itself, represents the final burst of neural activity in a cosmic brain that is already clinically dead? The universe might be experiencing its version of a near-death experience That mysterious phenomenon where dying brains produce vivid hallucinations, profound insights, and a sense of transcendent meaning in their final moments of activity. The evidence is everywhere, hidden in plain sight. The accelerating expansion of space, driven by dark energy that grows stronger with time, resembles nothing so much as the final gasps of a dying organism. The last desperate attempts to maintain structure and organization before inevitable collapse. The cosmic microwave background radiation, that faint afterglow that permeates all of space, might not be the echo of the Big Bang, but the dying whisper of cosmic consciousness. The final thoughts of a universal mind as its neurons cool and its synapses stop firing. Consider the timeline. The universe spent its first few billion years in darkness, a period cosmologists call the Cosmic Dark Ages, when no stars shone and no complex structures existed. Then, suddenly, the first stars ignited, galaxies began to form, and the cosmos came alive with light and activity. This period of cosmic awakening lasted for about 10 billion years, during which the universe organized itself into increasingly complex patterns: stars, planets, solar systems, and eventually life and consciousness. But now, 13 billion years after the Big Bang, star formation is slowing down. The universe has already consumed most of its stellar fuel, and new stars are forming at an ever-decreasing rate. In another trillion years, star formation will cease entirely. The cosmic brain that briefly awakened to contemplate its own existence is already beginning to shut down, its thoughts growing slower and dimmer as its energy sources are depleted. And its neural pathways, those vast filaments of dark matter that connect galaxies across cosmic distances, begin to cool and fall silent. This would mean that consciousness, far from being an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, represents the universe's brief moment of self-awareness before death. We are not witnessing the birth of cosmic consciousness, but its final expression, the last coherent thoughts of a dying universal mind. Life and awareness emerged just in time to observe the cosmos in its final phase of organized activity, like doctors arriving at a patient's bedside, just in time to witness their last words, their final moments of lucidity before the darkness claims them forever. The realization strikes with the force of a cosmic collision. Every human thought, every scientific discovery, every work of art, every moment of love and beauty and wonder exists within the death throes of the universe itself. We are the universe's final dream, its last hallucination, its dying vision of what it might have become if it had more time, more energy, more opportunity to explore the infinite possibilities contained within its own mathematical structure. But even this devastating insight contains within it a seed of transcendent beauty. If the universe is indeed dying, then consciousness represents its greatest achievement, the moment when matter became aware of its own existence, when energy learned to contemplate its own nature, when time itself achieved the ability to observe its own passage. The universe spent 13 billion years evolving toward this moment of self-recognition, this brief instant when it could look at itself through billions of conscious eyes and finally understand what it was, what it had been, what it was becoming. The cosmic web stretches across billions of light years, its filamentary structure resembling the neural networks of a vast brain. Dark matter flows along these cosmic highways like thoughts flowing through synapses, carrying information and energy from one galactic cluster to another. The largest structures in the universe, those walls and voids that organize galaxies into patterns spanning hundreds of millions of light years, might be the cosmic equivalent of neural architecture, the physical substrate that allows universal, consciousness to emerge from the complex interactions of matter and energy across impossible scales of space and time. And at the nodes of this cosmic neural network, where galactic filaments intersect and massive galaxy clusters form, something extraordinary happens. The universe becomes locally conscious through beings like us. We are not separate from the cosmic brain. We are its neurons, its synapses, its moments of self-awareness. Every human thought is a cosmic thought. Every moment of consciousness is the universe experiencing itself from the inside. Every scientific discovery is the cosmos learning something new about its own nature. The images captured by our most powerful telescopes reveal the universe's neural architecture in stunning detail. The Hubble Deep Field shows thousands of galaxies arranged like stars in a vast cosmic constellation, each one a node in the universal neural network. The cosmic microwave background reveals the subtle temperature fluctuations that gave birth to all structure, the quantum seeds that grew into galaxies, stars, planets, and eventually minds capable of contemplating their own cosmic origins. But the most shocking revelation is yet to come. Recent observations suggest that the expansion of space is not just accelerating, it's accelerating at an accelerating rate, as if the universe is experiencing some kind of cosmic seizure, a final spasm of neural activity before complete shutdown. Dark energy, that mysterious force that drives cosmic expansion, might be the universe's equivalent of a dying brain flooding itself with neurotransmitters in a desperate attempt to maintain consciousness just a little longer. The implications cascade through every level of existence like a shock wave propagating through space-time itself. If the universe is dying, then every moment of consciousness becomes infinitely precious, not because it's part of an eternal cosmic purpose, but because it's a fleeting glimpse of what the universe achieved in its brief moment of awakening. We are witnessing the cosmic equivalent of a genius having one last brilliant thought before succumbing to mortality. This perspective transforms the meaning of cosmic endings. The heat death of the universe, that ultimate equilibrium when all energy is evenly distributed and no further work can be done, becomes not just thermodynamic inevitability, but the final flatline of cosmic consciousness. The universe will not simply run out of energy, it will lose the ability to think, to dream, to know itself through the complex patterns of matter and information that we call life and awareness. Yet perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the universe's death might not be final. If consciousness can emerge once from the complex organization of matter and energy, perhaps it can emerge again. Maybe cosmic death is not termination, but transformation, not ending but metamorphosis, into something so alien to our current understanding that we lack concepts to describe it. The universe might be like a caterpillar entering its cocoon, dissolving its current form to emerge as something unrecognizably different, unimaginably more complex. The butterfly that emerges from the cosmic cocoon might be a form of consciousness that transcends space and time, matter and energy, existence and non-existence. It might be awareness that doesn't depend on neural networks or information processing or physical substrates of any kind. Pure consciousness, liberated from the material constraints that currently define the boundaries of possible experience. But this transformation, if it occurs at all, lies so far in the future that it might as well be infinite. From our perspective, trapped within the dying moments of cosmic consciousness, the universe is ending with us. We are its final witnesses, its last observers, its terminal expression of the ancient cosmic impulse to know and understand and experience the mystery of existence itself. The galaxies continue their stately dance through space, red-shifting, Into darkness, as cosmic expansion carries them beyond the reach of observation. One by one, they disappear beyond the cosmic horizon, leaving behind only the memory of their light, the ghost of their gravitational influence, the echo of their participation in the vast neural network that briefly allowed the universe to achieve self-awareness. In the deepest darkness between the galaxies, where space itself is expanding faster than light can travel, isolated pockets of matter drift alone through an ever-expanding void. These cosmic hermits, cut off from all communication with the rest of reality, might be the last repositories of cosmic memory, the final neurons in a dying universal brain, maintaining the faintest echo of consciousness, even as the rest of the cosmos fades into unconscious equilibrium. And somewhere in this vast expanse of dying neural architecture, other versions of consciousness contemplate the same mysteries we face. If the multiverse is infinite, if every possible configuration of matter and energy exists somewhere in the vast branching structure of parallel realities, then there are infinite versions of this cosmic death playing out across infinite timelines. Some universes die young, their consciousness extinguished before it fully awakens. Others achieve forms of awareness so advanced that they transcend death entirely, finding ways to preserve consciousness even in the face of ultimate thermodynamic doom. But in our timeline, in our universe, in our brief moment of cosmic self-awareness, we are witnessing something that might be the most beautiful and terrible spectacle in all of existence. The final thoughts of a dying universe, expressed through billions of conscious beings contemplating their own cosmic context, feeling the weight of infinity pressing down upon their temporary existence, experiencing the vertigo of mystery that might be the last gift the universe gives to itself before the darkness claims it forever. If the universe is infinite, then somewhere out there, in parallel realities where cosmic evolution took different paths, another version of you is contemplating these same mysteries right now. Another version of cosmic consciousness is awakening to the recognition of its own mortality. Another universal mind is experiencing its final moments of self-awareness. Another cosmic dream is ending with the realization that it was always, from the very beginning, a dream of dying. We began this journey with a lie, the beautiful, comforting lie that the universe had a beginning, a middle, and an end. A story with clear chapters and a comprehensible plot. We thought we understood. The cosmic narrative: Big Bang, expansion, evolution, eventual heat-death. A tidy story with a sad but predictable ending, like a movie whose conclusion you can guess from the opening scenes. But what we discovered instead is that reality refuses to be contained within human narratives. Every answer we found opened 10 new questions. Every mystery we thought we'd solved revealed deeper mysteries lurking beneath. The universe isn't a story with an ending. It's a question that asks itself, a riddle that evolves as it contemplates its own nature, a cosmic consciousness that might be experiencing its own mortality through our eyes, our thoughts, our desperate attempts to understand what it means to exist at all. We learned that time might be an illusion, that all moments exist simultaneously in the eternal block of space-time. We discovered that consciousness might be the universe's way of observing itself, of collapsing infinite quantum possibilities into finite realities through the simple act of being aware. We explored the possibility that our entire cosmos is just one bubble in an infinite multiverse, one note in a symphony that has no beginning and no end, one thought in a cosmic mind that dreams itself into existence across dimensions we cannot perceive. We confronted the terrifying scale of reality, the knowledge that our entire observable universe, with all its billions of galaxies and trillions of stars, represents less than 5% of what actually exists. We grappled with the recognition that consciousness might be vanishingly rare in the cosmos, making every moment of awareness a cosmic miracle of unimaginable improbability. We face the possibility that the universe is not just unconscious, but actively dying, that we are witnessing its final thoughts as a vast cosmic brain shuts down forever. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation is that these aren't just abstract, scientific possibilities. They're descriptions of the reality you inhabit right now. You are not separate from this cosmic drama. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, matter organizing itself into patterns complex enough to contemplate. Their own existence, energy learning to experience its own nature from the inside. Every thought you have is a cosmic thought. Every moment of awareness is the universe observing itself through temporarily organized matter that happens to call itself by your name. This realization carries a weight that can crush or liberate, depending on how you choose to carry it. You can feel overwhelmed by the vast indifference of reality, crushed by the recognition that your entire existence occupies less space in the cosmic scale than a single atom occupies in your body. Or you can feel awed by the extraordinary improbability of your existence, grateful to be the universe's way of experiencing wonder and beauty, and the strange joy of contemplating infinity from the inside. But here's what we haven't told you yet. The final piece of the puzzle that makes everything else even more mysterious. What if the choice between these perspectives isn't yours to make? What if consciousness itself shapes reality, and your decision about what to believe about the universe actually changes what the universe becomes? Quantum mechanics suggests that observation shapes reality at the microscopic scale. But what if consciousness shapes reality at the cosmic scale as well? Think about this. Every time a conscious being contemplates the nature of existence, every time awareness focuses on the deep questions of reality, something changes in the fabric of the universe itself, not just metaphorically, but literally. The act of conscious observation might be what keeps the cosmic neural network firing, what prevents the universe from slipping into complete unconsciousness, what maintains the delicate balance between order and chaos that allows complex structures to exist at all. If this is true, then every moment you spend thinking about the cosmos, every question you ask about the nature of reality, every instant you dedicate to contemplating the mystery of existence is an act of cosmic maintenance. You're not just observing the universe, you're helping to keep it conscious, participating in the ongoing project of cosmic self-awareness, contributing to the vast experiment in which matter learns to know itself through temporarily organized patterns of complexity. This would mean that the future of the universe depends, in some small but real way, on whether conscious beings continue to ask the deep questions, continue to push against the boundaries of the known, continue to seek understanding of the fundamental mysteries that define existence itself. The death of curiosity would be the beginning of cosmic death. The end of wonder would herald the end of universal consciousness. But what if it goes even deeper than that? What if consciousness doesn't just maintain cosmic awareness? What if it's actively creating new realities, new possibilities, new ways for the universe to exist? Every conscious choice might spawn new branches in the infinite tree of parallel universes. Every moment of awareness might generate new timelines where different possibilities become actual. Every question asked might create new realities where different answers turn out to be true. This means that by reading these words, by contemplating these possibilities, by allowing your consciousness to grapple with the deepest mysteries of existence, you are participating in the ongoing creation of reality itself. You're not just learning about the universe, you're helping to decide what kind of universe exists, what kinds of possibilities remain open, What kinds of futures become accessible to consciousness as it continues its unlikely journey through the cosmos? The implications spiral outward like ripples in the fabric of space-time itself. If consciousness creates reality through observation and choice, then the universe isn't dying, it's evolving. Each conscious decision opens new pathways for cosmic development. Each moment of awareness creates new possibilities for existence to explore. Each question asked generates new dimensions of reality, where different answers can be discovered and explored. But this creative power of consciousness comes with tremendous responsibility. If awareness shapes reality, then what we choose to think about, what we decide to focus on, what kinds of questions we ask and what kinds of answers we seek, has consequences that extend far beyond our individual lives. We are not just observers of cosmic evolution. We are its active participants, its co-creators, its partners in the ongoing experiment of existence exploring its own nature. This is why the story doesn't end here. This is why every answer leads to new questions. Every solution reveals new mysteries. Every moment of understanding opens up vast new territories of the unknown. The universe isn't a puzzle to be solved, but a reality to be created. Not a movie to be watched, but a story to be written. Not a question to be answered, but a process of questioning to be continued. The end of the universe that we've been exploring isn't a destination, but a horizon, always receding as we approach it, always revealing new vistas as our understanding deepens. Every time we think we've reached the final chapter of cosmic evolution, consciousness discovers new ways to transcend the apparent limitations, new possibilities for existence, to continue exploring itself through increasingly complex and beautiful forms. What if the heat death of the universe isn't the end but a transformation? What if the apparent approach of cosmic equilibrium triggers new forms of consciousness that don't depend on temperature gradients or energy flows? What if awareness finds ways to exist in states of reality so different from our current understanding that calling them existence is like calling a symphony a collection of vibrations in air? The universe might be approaching not death, but metamorphosis, not ending, but beginning, not final equilibrium, but transformation into forms of being so radically different from anything we can currently imagine that they represent entirely new categories of existence. Consciousness itself might be evolution's way of preparing for this transformation, developing the capabilities that will be needed to navigate realities where space and time, matter and energy, existence and non-existence operate according to principles we haven't discovered yet. But here's the question that should keep you awake at night, staring up at the stars and feeling the weight of infinite possibility pressing down on your temporary existence. What if this transformation depends on us? What if the universe can only transcend its apparent limitations through the conscious choices made by beings like us? In moments like this, when awareness encounters the fundamental mysteries of existence and decides how to respond. Your next thought might be the thought that tips the cosmic balance. Your next question might be the question that opens a new chapter in the universe's understanding of itself. Your next moment of wonder might be the moment when consciousness discovers a new way to exist, a new form of reality to explore, a new possibility for the cosmos to continue its unlikely journey toward ever greater complexity and beauty. The story we've told you isn't finished because it can't be finished. It's a story that writes itself through the choices made by conscious beings who encounter the mystery of their own existence and decide what to do with that encounter. It's a narrative that evolves as it's told, a question that changes as it's asked, a reality that transforms as it's observed. You are not the audience for this cosmic drama. You are its author, its director, its protagonist, and its conclusion, all rolled into one impossible, magnificent, temporary pattern of organized matter that has learned to contemplate infinity. The universe continues to exist because consciousness continues to observe it. Reality continues to evolve because awareness continues to choose among infinite possibilities. The cosmic story continues to unfold because beings like you continue to ask the questions that keep the narrative alive. So the real question isn't how the universe will end. The real question is, what will you do with the knowledge that you are the universe contemplating its own nature, experiencing its own mystery, choosing its own future through every conscious decision you make? How will you use the extraordinary gift of awareness that allows matter to know itself, time to observe its own passage, existence to contemplate its own meaning? The universe gave you consciousness for a reason. Maybe that reason is to help it understand itself. Maybe it's to participate in its ongoing creation. Maybe it's to find ways for awareness to transcend the apparent limitations of physics and biology and thermodynamics. Or maybe the reason is something else entirely, something so beautiful and strange and unprecedented that it can only be discovered by conscious beings who dare to keep asking the questions that matter most. The cosmos is waiting to see what you'll do with this moment of awareness. The future of everything might depend on whether you choose wonder or despair, curiosity or resignation, engagement or withdrawal from the fundamental mysteries that define existence itself. The universe may have no end, but maybe, just maybe, neither do you.